I've seen a lot of people quit YouTube and the creator business way early. And I think the reason is pretty simple. They're expecting outputs too early. And so those are things like views, subscribers, and just general growth. Those things are delayed outputs. And the work you're putting into your videos right now might not show the outputs for months or even years. I know this has been true for me on a number of channels. And the reality is, if you can't keep posting when nobody is watching, then you're probably not going to be there when the success starts to show up. So in this video, I want to show you why consistency matters so much and why focusing on inputs over outputs will completely change the way you approach YouTube. All right, so the first thing is that most creators track the wrong things. And I talked about this a little bit in the last video where I shared analytics and talked about inputs over outputs. But most of the time, creators are tracking views, right? They're looking at their views, they're looking at subs and their comments maybe, and just overall growth, right? That's what they're looking at. So these are the things that most YouTubers and people trying to create a creator business are doing. They're tracking these things and they're looking at the growth of that. The reality is that these are outputs, okay? These are outputs. Sorry for misspelling that, but you get the picture. And outputs are delayed, as I said earlier. So what actually matters is inputs. And for that, let me just clear this out here. Inputs are things like just publishing consistently. Sorry, excuse the terrible handwriting here. They're things like research. So like when you're researching your topics, looking for things to talk about, looking for outliers. So that would be looking at videos that are performing way better than the standard video on those YouTube channels. So things like your thumbnails and titles. So, your packaging, those are the things that you're going to input. And obviously those are types of things, but you have to figure out the structure of how you're doing that. What are you inputting to make these better? The key thought here is you can control your inputs. You cannot control your outputs. All right. So what is the kind of real challenge of this all? And I think it really is consistency without reward. Again, sorry for the terrible handwriting. Consistency without reward. This is a key thing because if your views are low and nobody is commenting and nothing seems to be working, then you need to be able to be consistent in your inputs regardless of what that looks like. This is something I struggled with a lot through the first year of YouTube and trying to build a creator business. I always wanted the reward. I couldn't handle putting in a ton of time and effort and making the videos, as good as I possibly could and not getting the reward, if you will, and not getting the like the payback, right? To see the fruit of your labor. So that was really a hard thing for me to do. And I think that phase can last for 3 months. It can last for 6 months. And sometimes it can last over a year before you start seeing that reward, before you start seeing the outputs that you want. So you have to be able to be consistent without the rewards. And I think what I've seen is that the creators who can grow and actually succeed are the ones who keep publishing during this phase, and they don't have to stop. They're not, bogged down by not seeing the reward. All right. So what does this mean? What does this all mean? So for me, it's not about the consistency is not like just daily uploads or, like burning out yourself and trying to just do everything all at once. Right. I would say consistency is choosing inputs that you can do for an entire year. So you need to choose inputs that you can do for the entire year, all right, without stopping, without having setbacks, without worrying about these things. If you can do this, that's consistency right there. It's not specifically what the inputs are. It's the fact that you can do them every day for a year. So this could be, the one video a week, right? So that could be a part of your inputs. It could be the research that you do for each video. So like if you have a specific time or how much you want to research, for each video to make sure that you're getting the proper, video for your audience, that's part of that. It could be the improvement, right? So like you've heard the thing of improve 1% time after time. It could be the improvements here. So however you have these things set up and what that looks like for you, those are the inputs, and you need to be able to sustain those over the entire year, right? That's what creates consistency. So if you can't do the system, like if you can't do all these inputs that you're creating, if you can't do those for a year, the system is too aggressive for you. So you need to back it off and change, like how many times you're uploading. If you can't do once a week, then you need to do every other week, or, twice a month or something like that. If you cannot spend 3 days researching your topic and writing your script, then you have to back that off. And if you can't improve like a ton every single video, then just back it off to what you can improve. These are the things you have to look at. Figure out what you can do every day for a year, and that becomes your system. What I want to show you here is a video that I did recently, probably within the last couple of months, and it has 26,700 views. All right, so this is not a typical pattern for my channel. This is the opposite of kind of what I'm talking about. This was almost instant gratification, instant reward, right? So I had, not very many views until like a week later, and then it just kind of took off and went up to 20,000+ views after 2 weeks. And now it's tapered off, but it's still consistently getting views every day. That is kind of an outlier for me. So that's not the consistency that I'm talking about in this video. You'll have a few of those, and that's great, but you can't look at that reward and be like, every video is going to have that, because it's not. So if I look at, that is my top performer, and then here are the 3 next top performers. I have another video here that started incredibly slow. This is over a year old. Like this has been out for over a year or right about a year, not quite a year, but it's slowly, you can see this curve is much different than this curve, right? It's just slowly going. And this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about delayed outputs. If I created this video and saw that it wasn't doing good and decided I'm not going to make a video next week, or I'm going to stop. And believe me, I have done that. I did that all last year, where there were times and gaps where I just wasn't consistent. But if I was consistent and put out videos every single day, or every single week, and wasn't worried about only getting a few, views per video, then I would be substantially ahead of where I am right now. Like that would be way further ahead. So you can see that this just keeps going up, and now it's starting to like tick up even more than what you'd expect, right? This almost has the same amount of views as the other video, which of course that video happened quickly and it's newer, but it's probably not going to have the longevity of this. It might, you never know, but you got to look for the delayed outputs. Here's another example. This video, again, hardly got any views up front. This is over a year old. And now, just as gradually, and now we're starting to see the delayed outputs start to come in and get thousands of views. Again, all these estimates for like earnings are pretty low because I just got monetized like a week ago. So they're all going to be very low. If it was monetized the whole time, this would be a lot more, right? And then here's another video, which is just about a year old, not quite, which really had almost no views for a long time and has started to pick up and start to boom, right? Ton of delayed output. This is what I want you to see. It's so important to be consistent, because if I do this every single time, if I come back to my analytics here on every video, we looked at this last time a little bit. If I go like the last year, if I were more consistent, like there's just a ton of times where I had gaps for months where I didn't make videos, right? If I was consistent and done every single week, then I would see a lot more. I think it'd probably be way up here compared to what it is right now. So another example I have for that is one of my friends, Steve. He has a YouTube channel that's about, growing YouTube. It's YouTube growth and helping you. It's an amazing channel. Check him out. I love what he has to say. It's super down to earth. He's not a hype guy. He's not a guru that's going to like hype you up and make you feel like you have no clue what you're doing. Down to earth, really good guy. But I wanted to look at some of his analytics through vidIQ here and just kind of show you like his big thing. And I remember when he started his channel, like he just was so consistent, and he talks about that whole process. Basically what I'm talking about today is a ton of support for that process of feeling like, why am I doing this? Like I should just quit because I'm not getting any views, right? If you feel like that, check his channel out. But like he did it consistently, and he just keeps doing it consistently. And then this drop right here is because he probably, took a couple videos and unlisted them. But It just kind of stayed there. It wasn't going anywhere much, right? But then it started picking up to a few thousand views, and then it just kind of boomed, right? This drop down is because this is March and it hasn't totaled the views. So it just skyrocketed here. And the same thing with his subscriber gain. It's because he did consistent inputs for a year that he's starting to reap the benefits of the delayed outputs. If he stopped after 10 videos, this would not be happening. And even if it did start to go up, he wouldn't be there to see it because he wouldn't be producing videos. He wouldn't be actively working on anything. So I just wanted to show you another example of how that happens and how inputs is so much more important than outputs. Okay, so I've shown you all this and I've talked through all this because I want to share what creates YouTube growth and what creates creator growth, right? If you're doing a creator business and you're using YouTube, this is going to bring revenue in. This is going to bring people in that are going to purchase whatever you're selling. But this is what creates YouTube growth. There's three things: consistency, learning what the audience wants, and improving your videos over time. So you have to have all three of those. If you don't have all three of those, you're not going to see the growth that you want to see. And in fact, most people, I feel like, skip number one. Even though it's like the first thing that YouTube gurus will talk about, they'll tell you, you got to be consistent. You got to post every single week. I've seen in my own self, but also in a lot of other people on YouTube growing their channels, that the first thing they skip out on is consistency. Or they're so dogmatic about being consistent that they completely miss the idea of finding out what your audience wants to watch or improving their video. And they just think if I'm doing, one video a week, it doesn't matter how bad it is or how much people don't want to watch it, it'll grow. That's actually not the case either. There is three elements. You have to find something that people are wanting to watch, as well as improving on what you're already doing to have growth within consistency. But a lot of times people skip being consistent, or they get, maybe not skip, but they get downhearted because they're just not seeing the outputs, right? And so that's what this whole video is about, is trying to teach you and train you. Don't look at the outputs because oftentimes they're delayed, right? What I want to leave you here with the challenge is, can you post consistently for 1 year, even if nothing happens? If you can't do that, then you need to restructure what you're doing and how you're doing it, because you're not going to make it. You're going to burn out. So you need to be able to do this consistently for a whole year, even if no one is watching. So you need to pick a realistic publishing schedule. I already talked about that. Don't do anything crazy. Only do what you can really continue to do for a year. And you need to ignore the short-term outputs, right? I showed you that video of mine that kind of popped off and got a lot of views after a couple weeks. You need to ignore that, because that's just going to distract you from all the other videos that don't do that. So don't look at those. So the creators on YouTube that win are the ones that stay consistent longer, and they aren't worried about the delayed outputs. They only focus on the inputs. And if you're trying to grow on YouTube right now, there's a shift that's happening in the YouTube algorithm and just the way people are viewing on the platform. I made a video explaining that and how it affects small channels. So go over there and check that out, and I'll see you in that video.